What up, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of Profit Picks. We haven't had a show since Monday, I think. It's nice to be back, and we have our we have our good friend Mr. Rob Veno here to help us out. I know we always start by being transparent. Like I said, I haven't been doing shows this week, but Monday did give out a winner. I believe I put it on Twitter. Um, I can't even remember if I did a show on Monday. Actually, now that I think about it, but I gave it out on Twitter. Falcons, they went out right. And I know I lost on the baseball game and I lost last night. So got to do a little better here today. I think I'm 1-2 so far this week. Vino, good to talk to you. How have you been? How's everything been for you?
Been good, Skee. These weeks go by quick during the football season. Last night was a good night, 2-0 WNBA, 1-0 in the NFL. Had the Jets team total over 22.5, get to 24, so that worked. WNBA final day of the regular season, I think, presented us with a couple of easy ones. The Connecticut Sun was a winner minus the points, and the Dallas Las Vegas game over, which also got there. So look forward to continuing that today and through the weekend.
Yeah, we got a few games to talk about for Sunday. Playoffs are finally here. So it's meaningful basketball every single day the rest of the way. And I'm looking forward to it. Look at this one here, Rob. Pretentious. It was people coming in still guessing. Pretentious Prodigy says, "Are you back to doing the shirt contest or no?" Casey says, "Y'all still guessing? Couldn't be me." Shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Mark in here. Good to see you. Bitsy in the building. Uh, Troy Mayer. Good to see you as well, bro. Um, Man, I had Rob. I don't. Well, you watched some games with me, but I don't think you've seen me too much like that. But some people know if you watch a lot of games with me, like if it's not going my way, for one, I might disappear for a little bit, have to take a lap, go walk around, try to change the vibes or energy. And if you rooting against me, I'm definitely staying away. I'm getting the hell away from you. So I'll say this for my boy Troy yesterday. We're hanging out and stuff. He he had the under, I think, but it got to a point where he's rooting for New England not to score anymore, and I'm sitting there needing New England to score. So I'm like, get the hell away from me.
That's funny.
But that's my boy though. Let's get to WNBA. We got 4 games for Sunday. Game ones of a best of 3, and we'll start with Atlanta Dream, New York Liberty. Opened up Liberty minus 12. They're now 11.5 point favorite. Total open 156 and went up a half a point. So total went up a half a point. Side went down half a point. Don't really have an injury report for these yet. Atlanta, it was tough. They had to fight to make it into the playoffs, but here they are. In New York, I mean, they've looked pretty dominant all year long. I think they lost 8 games all year, and the first half of the season, I think they were struggling to cover these big numbers like this. And I can actually should pull it up. I'll pull it up when I pass it to you. I think the first half of the season they were struggling to cover double digits, but I think after the break they came out firing and were doing better in that regard. I'll ask you here, Rob. Do you think because Atlanta had to fight so hard, they may not have as much left in the tank to fight this Liberty team? Do you think they have enough talent to keep up with this Liberty team?
Well, I think the bad news for them might be that they played the Liberty last night and beat them, which could only fuel a little bit of the Liberty fire. Because when you're a heavy favorite like New York is going to be in this series, Skee, tendency could be to look past the team a little bit. I know New York has not won a championship yet, and they should be fully focused from game one all the way through. But there always is that tendency to think that we got this. These guys can't match up with us. But I think that loss last night, and New York did shave minutes from their starters, right? I think 4 of the 5 starters played between 16 and 25. So they didn't go all out, which benefited Atlanta as far as making it. The scheduling at the end really helped them. But they're so scrappy, Atlanta. Don't shoot it really well. We've talked about it often this year. Going to have to contain the New York 3-point shooting game because New York gets them up there and they make them. So I just think that at home, off of a loss to this very same team, New York would probably be my first inclination in game one. We'll see what happens. I haven't made any decisions yet. Like we were talking off air, and we're just now seeing opening numbers here. I think I'll give you some sort of a guideline or a gauge here. I actually, power ratings wise, made this game New York 14.5. So I think there's a little bit of margin there for the Liberty. So that's probably the side I'll be looking toward. If I make a play, it's likely to be on them.
I think I can agree with that. There's I feel like New York is. I mean, I thought about the first quarter just because I think they have a big talent gap versus the starters in Atlanta. But I think this is one where if it starts to get a little bit out of hand, um, they will kind of run away with it. So I can't pull up the money baller. I can't pull up some of the stats I want to look at until tomorrow. It looks like probably. So I can't verify the double digit record, but only way I would be playing this one right now would be Liberty some way, shape, or form, whether it's a quarter, a half, or the full game. Um, let's go over to the next game here, Rob. In this one, I mean, this is probably going to be the most watched one. It should be interesting for sure. 603, 604, Fever and Sun. Side hasn't really moved, sitting at 4.5. Total has gone up 1 point to 163.5. Caitlin Clark and the Fever. I mean, these Fever haven't been in the playoffs in I don't know how long. Since I've been watching WNBA, they haven't been in the playoffs. They've been bottom feeders. So I know it's big for their franchise. They started playing really good basketball after that Olympic break. I think that was big for Caitlin Clark to help her. How do I say? Maybe it just gave her time to watch more film and see what she might have been doing wrong and just work on it to improve it. She had a lot of time, a month. So that was pretty big for Indiana. They have a lot of good chemistry right now. And Connecticut, they do have a lot of experience. They're in the playoffs every single year. A lot of veterans on this team. Though the thing I worry about, I feel like Indiana is playing better than Connecticut lately, but I just worry about those players who haven't been there. And a lot of these players, are young, but you also have players like Kelsey Mitchell. For as much experience as she has, she's never played a playoff game. So in a situation like this, I like to lean on the more experienced home team in Connecticut -4.5. How are you seeing it, Veno?
Yeah, first of all, I think that when Kelsey Mitchell went down last night, Indiana kind of was like, "Oh my god!" But she's okay. Checked it this morning. They basically took her out precautionary. She fell down under the backboard on the offensive side and then kind of gimped back on defense. And then they pulled her after 4.5 minutes or whatever, just to make sure she's okay for this game. So that's huge. I think the Marina Mabry addition to Connecticut becomes huge. It's a team that generally can't shoot from the outside, had difficulty shooting from the outside, but I think Mabry brings a lot of perimeter weaponry to that team, which they need. It's going to be interesting, as you mentioned, how Indiana reacts first game, playoff atmosphere on the road. I think that has to be brought into consideration here. I really do. And can Connecticut kind of force Indiana into any type of, let's say, 4 or 5 minute drought? Because Indiana needs to score to win, right? They're not going to defend to win. So for Connecticut, which is a defensive minded team, I thought this morning, really quick, Skee, it reminded me that the very first time these two met and Carrington was assigned to guard Caitlin Clark and she hounded her all over the floor. And that bothers me a little bit because playoff motivation increases so much. And I feel like Caitlin Clark might be facing really good defense here. So my first look was toward Connecticut. I know we sometimes can't trust their offense, but again, I think Mabry on this team as well helps the offense a little bit. So might be Connecticut for me in game one. We'll see if Indiana can just step right in and act like they belong. It'll be interesting.
I do think Mabry is a big piece for sure. She's definitely going to help out the prison ball offense. She's a shooter out there. She's a dog. I love Mabry's game. And she's also experienced. I'm looking at it. I think a lot of people are going to run and go bet the Fever. Fever, we've seen it here in the chat, Fever plus. And let's not forget, even with the experience stuff, Casey says it here, Kelsey Mitchell got hurt yesterday too. She could, like she said, it could be Ginger on that ankle to start this series. So I personally see a lot of negative for this first playoff game for the Fever. Um, I can understand the positives as far as they've been playing well, but this first game, it's a one-way ticket. I'm looking at Connecticut. I didn't play it yet, but I'm pretty sure I have some kind of Connecticut in my pocket for this game. Winning by just a couple possessions, absolutely doable.
One
Next,
thing about them, Skee, real quick, if it gets down to the end, Connecticut shoots free throws lousy. I mean, how many times am I going to watch uh, Thomas go to the line and blow free throws? But I feel like they could be up by more than enough, and it will probably be in an extending margin type of situation if they're shooting free throws at the end. Just thought for folks in playoff that are thinking towards playoff basketball rather than regular season basketball. A lot of times it comes down to these free throws, but I too like Connecticut in that game.
Connecticut has also been a really good first quarter team going back like the past few years, I believe. Um, Starting lineup, all experience, etc. I mean, I think the bench. I'm not sure about the bench strength for them versus the Fever. So maybe it could be a situation where you want to get in and get out first quarter. I don't see. Yeah, I do. First quarter is -1.5. Just got to win by a bucket. I mean, I could absolutely see them throwing that first punch out there, and then maybe the Fever get more comfortable as the game goes on. But yes, free throw concerns. I'm gonna cut Alyssa Thomas some slack though. She don't have any labrums left. She's out there. It's crazy the stuff she's still able to do. But definitely something to think about in that game. Um, See, potential project says Mitchell is available to return, but for what? They were locked into the seat, so he thinks she'll be okay. I'll look more into it, but let's keep it going here for the show. Next up, we have 605, 606, Mercury and Lynx. Spread went down a half a point, 1 point in some shops, either 10 or 10.5 is what we're looking at here. Total hasn't really moved. Lynx, I mean, from the beginning of the season, nobody expected the Lynx to be as good as they were to start the year. I don't think. Um, they came out guns blazing. We thought, market might catch up to them. It might fall off. No, they continued to be strong and look really good the entire season. I want to say they had the best record, maybe even after the Olympic break. Uh, Not 100%, but I think they did. Playing really good basketball, healthy. Phoenix hasn't really been playing the best since the Olympic break. Um, Minnesota, though, they're still, for as good as they've been playing, they're just not the team I want to be laying double digits with. I still personally don't view them like that. So, in this game, I might look more towards the total. I do know both of these teams can score. I don't necessarily trust Phoenix defensively. Over 158.5 would be a small lean. How do you view this one, Veno?
Well, I think I have to find some way to play Minnesota series. I don't know
Yeah,
what these series prices are
they're
going
not
to be
out yet.
outrageous. Yeah, and it's hard for us to guess. I know that the line's going to be outrageous. It's a 3-game series, but it could be over in 2. Unlike what we talked about with Indiana, Phoenix has the experience, right? And you would expect that would Kalea Copper be back? I would think she would be back
I think
for
so.
this. And I don't know about Rebecca Allen, though, which has made a big difference in Phoenix. But Phoenix, since the All-Star break, or excuse me, the Olympic break, has just been an absolute train wreck. Offensively, they have not been themselves. Defensively, they weren't very good to begin with. But you do have Diana Taurasi. You have Brittany Griner. You got a lot of players out there that know what this atmosphere is like. They're not the better team by any stretch. The other side is totally better. And they made a couple improvements along the way at the trade deadline. I think their 3-point shooting, which for the entire season was the best in the NBA. I don't think they ever fell to number 2. And their field goal shooting is terrific. Nafisha Collier, who sat out last night, fantastic. I just don't know that Phoenix has the answers for this team other than experience. That doesn't mean they'll win by 11 point spread wise, which is why I mentioned off the top, I really like them in the series, Skee. I'd like to find the cheapest way possible that I can find to play Minnesota, whether that be 2-0 sweep or whatever it is, wherever I can get the odds to come down a little bit, I think I would be on Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm waiting on those series prices for sure. I did check right before the show and I didn't see any yet. I'm sure we'll get some soon. Oh, actually, is this series prices did just come out since
Oh, okay.
yeah, they just came out. So this series, Minnesota is minus 900. So I don't see the series games in front of me, but I will refresh this website. I probably will have to search different sites. Probably going to put them up at different times. Oh, they're series props. We got some. Yeah, we have them now. Literally, they
Okay.
just put them out. So let me scroll. Let's see. We're looking at Phoenix, Minnesota. For the Lynx to win 2-0, still minus 260. So you still got to lay a price in this one. Um, Liberty to win 2-0 is minus 400. So they know. Not trying to give away any money around here. Connecticut to win the series open minus 190 and it's down to minus 180. You know, if you think Connecticut is going to knock the Fever out, it might be wise to wait. You know, a lot of people are going to go and bet the Fever. So that's what we're looking at there. Was there? I mean, you minus 260, a little bit too pricey. You think?
Generally, I don't get involved. I don't think Phoenix can find a way to get it back to their home floor. But, again, 2.5 to 1, little over 2.5 to 1. I generally don't get involved in that. We'll see, Skee. I mean, perhaps I can hook it to something else to bring the odds down even further. But I just don't see Phoenix even winning a game there. They could cover a game. I just don't see them winning a game.
Fair. Let me ask you, just while we're while I'm on this page, you can get the Connecticut series. You can bet to be done in 2 games minus 130. That means Connecticut is very likely to win. I mean, either team could win, but they're the home team and the favorite. 3 games is plus 100. You think the Fever win a game? You think both teams can at least win one?
That's more difficult here because the Fever, they've got a chance to send it back to Indiana, right? They just have to, even if they don't get the first one, maybe like you said earlier, they get their feet under them, their legs under them after game 1, and then game 2, steal one and bring it back. And all of a sudden you're wishing that you bet them off the top at the plus price, because at that point you won't get much in the way of return. So Indiana's a definite candidate to have an opportunity here. I don't see it. I think we both agree game 1 should go the Suns' way, but that game 2 is going to be real interesting. And they certainly, in my mind at least, have an opportunity to push that to 3 games.
I agree with you. So let's keep moving to the last one on the slate. That is the Storm and the Aces. And Aces are minus 450, it looks like, to win this series. For this specific game, Aces are minus 7. That was the opener as well. And total hasn't moved from 163.5. You know, Storm have disappointed me. Earlier in the year, I put in a future for them to win a championship. I think it was like plus 1,800 or something like that. And ever since, they just kind of went downhill. So I'm not really liking the way that they ended the season. They played this team, 3 times? They lost every single time during the regular season. Or no, they played them 4 times. They beat them the first game, the first time they played, and they lost the last 3. So between that and as well as the Aces have been playing the last few games, it's very hard for me to look at the Storm here. But Storm are talented. It's just, can you get their best basketball? I mean, when you see one team hasn't been playing their best basketball, one team is, been looking a lot better heading towards playing their best basketball, it's hard to bet against it. So I guess I'll kick it to you here first, Rob. Do you have an opinion on Storm or Aces? Do you think they can keep it within the number?
Well, I'll take just a slightly different approach to the way they closed the season, because Seattle closed, I think, the last 3 games without Jewel Lloyd and without Ezzy Magbagor, right? They both were out, concussion on one end, and I forget what Jewel Lloyd's injury was. But they did just play this team a couple of nights ago, and Skylar Diggins-Smith carried this team for 3.5 quarters to the point where the game was in jeopardy. I think the Aces got up 18. This was a game that the Aces wanted because they still had a chance to push themselves up the playoff ladder should Connecticut have lost. And Aces got up 18. Storm came all the way back to take a lead third quarter. But there were 2 games against 2 teams on their home floor within the last month that I watched. One was against New York. One was against the Aces. And in each game, they were right there with about 6 or 7 left in the game. In those final 6 or 7 minutes, New York pulled away and won by double digits, and Las Vegas pulled away and won by double digits. Now, Las Vegas, I could somewhat attribute it to the absences from the starting lineup. But that's a little bit worrisome. But I got to tell you, Skylar Diggins-Smith is playing tremendous at this point in time. And I would agree with you wholeheartedly that the Aces, in my mind, from that midseason kind of slump that they were having, and even carried a couple of games after the break, boy, they played good. And they played good defensively, Skee. I mean, their totals, believe me, I know, because I kept trying to bang my head with these overs. And the Aces defensively were fantastic, and they were playing lower scoring games and winning them convincingly. So I like the way the Aces are going on the defensive end. And I love, let's go back real quick to a conversation you and I had last Friday when we were talking about, I think it was Aces fever. And Becky Hammond said, Jackie Young took Caitlin Clark 94 feet up and down the floor. When push comes to shove, the Aces have these types of defenders. I don't know that Seattle really does. So Aces probably win the series. I don't know that it'll be easy. And 7 points is a lot. But the Aces, I don't know what the series price is there. You probably want to play the Aces, though. I think they're going to win that series.
Well, Aces to win in 2 games is minus 165. If you think that both teams can win a game, for the series to go 3 games is plus 155. I want to think that the Storm can win one, but thinking and putting your money down is 2 different things.
We could think a lot of things.
So I'll ask you this here, Rob. Out of the 4 games, which dog would you say is most likely to win game 1?
Well, it's not Atlanta. It's really not Indiana. Boy, oh boy. If I had to, Skee, I would say Seattle. I think Seattle's got just enough to have upset potential. So, in a 4-game set where I don't think any of the dogs could win, the one that I would choose if I had to would be Seattle.
I think I agree with that. They have the talent. They just got to put it together and play like it. So I think that's true. Fever, I think that they can absolutely compete with Connecticut, but I just think it won't be as much in that first game. All right, Rob, let's move over. We did a pretty solid job on WNBA. I'm going to see if we can touch a college football and see if we can talk a little bit of NFL as well. We do have 3 games in college football today. I want to touch one with Veno, and the following 2 we're going to touch with 5-star right after. So we'll look at Stanford and Syracuse. This one opened up Syracuse -9, is down to 8.5. Total open 57.5, and it looks like 56.5. I don't think I've watched either of these teams so far, Veno, but Syracuse, are they that good to be expected to win by double digits?
I think if you're betting that way, you're betting the cross-country trip for Stanford, or you're fading the cross-country trip for Stanford, and you're probably fading Stanford as a team rather than playing on Syracuse. The Carrier Dome can be a crazy place to play. Remember, Stanford's a member of this Atlantic Coast Conference now, so this is a conference game, and they haven't played in this building before. So that could be somewhat intimidating. The quarterback play is probably on the side of Syracuse. Kyle McCord, the kid who transferred from Ohio State, playing pretty well there. Ashton Daniels, quarterback on the other side. Little better runner than passer, but the offense is capable, Skee, and Syracuse's defense hasn't been all that great. 22 points allowed to Ohio U, 28 points allowed to Georgia Tech in a game where they were up 31-14 in the fourth and let Georgia Tech come back. But their offense has been dominant so far. They gained 515 yards against Georgia Tech, so certainly they could do that against Stanford at home on a Friday night in a spotlight type game. I looked at Syracuse's team total over 33.5. For them to get to 34, I don't think is that big of an issue here. So that's probably the way I would look. Didn't bet the side, so it's hard for me to recommend anything. But I think if you're looking at total in this game, you either want to play full game over or you want to play Syracuse team total over.
The chat seems to agree with you on that. Daniel says he likes it. B Daddy likes it. Mark likes over 56. So guys in agreement that total might be heading the wrong direction. All right, Veno, I do want to see if we can how much NFL we can get in here.
Okay.
Let me get my odds screen back over. It's getting a little bit difficult. Like at first I have opinions on all the games, strong opinions, and then week by week, it's like getting less and less opinions. But there are a few games that kind of stood out to me. So I'll shoot some questions your way. One, let's talk about this here. 455, 456, Houston and Minnesota. Opened up Houston -4.5. They're down to -2. Total open 46.5. Looks like 46. My bad. I need some water. But the Texans, I'll say this, they are going to be shorthanded at the running back position. They had injuries to Mixon and Pierce, I believe. So that is going to be tough for them. This is Diggs return to play the Vikings. I'm a big fan of CJ Stroud. Everybody knows that. And you can have your own opinion, but I think the first two games, Texans, I mean, they're still a public side in this game, but they're a public side in those first two games, and I didn't see a whole lot of calls going their way, yet they were still able to get the win. They're 0-2 ATS, but they're 2-0 straight up. The Vikings on the other side, they've looked immaculate in two games, right? Two easy blowout type wins. And to see this line where it is right now at 2, it opened 4.5 and it's down to 2. So everybody's betting the Vikings. Are they rightfully betting them? I mean, I do trust Flores as a coaching over there, but I kind of thinking I trust CJ Stroud more. How do you view this one,
Yeah, I think that the downward push toward Minnesota, Skee, could have a lot to do with, even though there's a questionable tag still next to Justin Jefferson's name, looks like he's going to play. And he's probably worth 2 points, Justin Jefferson, as far as the Vikings are concerned offensively. So maybe we know that a lot of this money chases injuries and injury information. So maybe that's part of the reason rather than just the two teams as a whole. I honestly, Minnesota played San Francisco's defense last week. San Francisco's offense might have been a little hamstrung. Don't have McCaffrey. Ayuk still working his way in. I think Debo got hurt in that game. Kittle might have got hurt in that game. So they were shorthanded a little bit, but defensively they were whole. And Minnesota did pretty well against that defense. So I can see them doing well against this defense as well. But I'd counter that by saying Houston should be able to poke holes in the Minnesota defense, which really, at least through my eyes, hasn't been fully tested as of yet. Even if Houston is down Joe Mixon, I think that Stroud and that receiving core can do enough damage to Minnesota as long as the offensive line protects, which they should. So Minnesota's a team, Skee, that their head coach over the preseason basically came out and said they were going to be a pass-heavy team this year, predominant passing team. And I look at this total of 46, and when you're looking at key numbers from totals, you always want to stay under 47 if you're going to bet an over. 46 is like a ticket to go ahead, and either the odds maker is daring you to come get it, or it's just not high enough. I don't think it's high enough here. I would probably side with over in that game. You're asking me if this game can go 27-20, 24-23 at there, and any combination that'll get you to 47, I think absolutely so. So that's the way I would look.
All right, let's see how if we can fit in some more games here. Guys in the chat are liking the Texans. I'm liking the Texans here. I might wait a little bit. Maybe we'll see how low it can go, but
Mm.
I'm likely to be on the Texans there. Another game that interests me here. The chat is talking about this game, and this is your neck of the woods. Actually, this is not the game that interests me, but it's your neck of the woods here, Rob. Philly and the Saints. Um, Eagles could have won that game, and I'll say they probably shouldn't have thrown the ball. Yes, Saquon should have caught it, but probably should have run the ball and just still continued to milk the clock. Also, I'm not gonna let those guys on the O line off the hook. The defense. I mean, how do I explain? Like the defense went over the line and they're supposed to flinch so the refs can call it, right? And they didn't even do it. And you can see the teammates were visibly upset. The coaches were upset with them. It was a lot of ways the Eagles could have finished that game off, but they didn't. So I think because of that, they should be pretty hungry coming in here to this week. They play a Saints team who 2-0. Both games, offense looks immaculate. I think they put up a 40 plus in both games. I mean, is that who the Saints are? Did everybody, overlook them? Are they that good? And should they? I mean, this one, the look ahead line, I think, or the opener was Philly minus 3.5. Now to see it almost flipped, is that an overreaction, Ravino?
Oh, it's probably certainly an overreaction, Ski. I will give you just as context because I have to keep power ratings because otherwise my eyes run wild and I'm not grounded in viewing these games the way they should be viewed because we know the NFL Sunday to Sunday is different. I made New Orleans 1.5. So the fact that they're all the way to 3 is just, hey, people A love offense. Can't say that I'm not one of them. And B will bet offense. And in this game, if Philly's got some problems here, especially on the defensive side, because they can't rush the passer. And Derek Carr with time is showing you that that receiving core, Chris Olave hasn't even been used yet. It's Rashid Shaheed for the most part. But they have 4 guys in that receiving core, if I include A.T. Perry and Cedric Wilson, that can beat the Philadelphia secondary under Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. And without a pass rush, they're going to be vulnerable. I'm going to say 4 or 5 times a game, susceptible to giving up a big play. And New Orleans right now happens to be the king of big plays. So I don't think Philly can stop them. But I do think I'm going to side with you and say that Philly probably should have won that game. And I'll even go back to their first scoring drive of the game where they run Saquon Barkley 9 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, 9 yards. They get all the way to like the 8-yard line, take them out of the game, and run Kenneth Gainwell into the middle of the pack twice in a row and end up in 4th down position to kick a field goal and don't even kick the field goal. They turn it over on downs. So Philadelphia's issue is not going to be moving the ball against New Orleans. Dallas moved it last week. They just couldn't stop them because they had no pass rush. Totals jumped from 47 to 49.5, rightfully so. I don't know that I trust the Eagles enough yet on the road, but we talked about this team. I'll bring it up again. We talked about this team with Kyle Kerms during the summertime. And I thought New Orleans offense was going to be real good. They did me right last week at a 5% on the New Orleans-Dallas over. The game was over at halftime. So we got that part of it pegged. I don't think they're that good defensively still, Skee. I think their defense is a little bit overrated at this point, and Philly can expose it. If you can take a field goal with Philadelphia, perhaps that's the way to go, but I'd prefer to be on over here. I don't see which side's going to stop the other.
All right, Rob thinks we'll see points in this game. I can't say I can talk you off that. I actually agree with that. And we actually have a little extra time than I thought. So let's see if we can get a couple more in here, Rob. And if you guys want to hear about a game, let us know in the chat. I have 2 games I want to talk about, really. Let's see what your thoughts are on this. Jaguars and Bills. The Bills, they've looked a lot better than I think people thought, myself included, to start the year. 2-0. And regardless of losing Diggs, losing Vincent, losing their entire starting secondary, Josh Allen has been playing really well. I got to give him credit. And I don't think he's thrown an interception yet, unless I'm maybe overlooking something, but he's playing really good. On the flip side, the Jaguars have not looked good, to say the least. And they're in a situation where they should be desperate. They should be hungry. They're 0-2. 0-3, I mean, season pretty much over at that point. I can't help but think you get a really good effort from the Jaguars. Both teams have extended time to prepare for this game, and the Bills could be looking ahead. I mean, they could look on the other side and say, Jaguars. I mean, who really cares? We got the Ravens on Sunday, and this is a Monday night game. So I'm thinking the Jaguars plus the points. Thinking the Jaguars will fight them and possibly even get a win. Can you talk me off?
I can't because I'm in agreement with the second half of what you were saying. I'm probably more prone to betting the situational aspect of this game than the fundamentals. And you laid it out how good Buffalo's playing, how good Josh Allen is playing. If we just go through what's been seen on the field and the fundamental play of both teams, then you have to like Buffalo. But I'm with you. I think the situational sticks out here. 0-3 is a tough place to be, especially when Houston's already 2-0 in that division. You really don't want to fall to 0-3. So regardless of whether they win or not, I think that they'll put up a real good fight here, and you're getting key numbers of 3 and 4. You could lose a close game by 3. You could lose a close game by 4. And even if they win the game straight up, that's all great. But you can lose it in a hard-fought battle. I don't know. I still question, and you talked about the Buffalo secondary. I question how good they are on pass defense. So far, they've gotten away with it, but I don't know that they continue to get away with it. I mean, somebody's going to have a game
I mean,
plan.
Arizona lit them up, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And then Arizona showed how good they were against the Rams last week. So I like the Jacksonville side here, plus the points. I think it's, as soon as it moved, it's 3.5 to 5.5, which just seems, I know 5's kind of a dead number, but I'll take the 3 and the 4 that's given to me here that can cash the ticket. And I would expect that Jacksonville comes out and plays a really good game. If they don't Skee, they're probably garbage. And I don't believe they're garbage yet. It's a good defense, and it's a good balanced offense. Trevor Lawrence has to make a couple plays, right? This guy every single year with him. I don't know your feelings on Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know. 1 minute you look at him and you think,
like him.
Maybe he was worthy, but then you watch him and you say, this guy was no way the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I'm more with the latter. That's kind of how I feel about him. But I'm glad that you agree on the side for this game. We're getting some questions in the chat. I mean, Jesus. Mark wants to talk about game nobody wants to watch. I don't know, Mark. Mark's my guy, though. But damn. All right, how about this? They're giving out games in the chat. I'll let you choose which one we go to next. Out of 3. Browns, Giants, Baltimore and Cowboys, Lions and Cardinals. Which one would you prefer to speak on?
Let's go to Lions Cardinals. I think that's the one that's the most intriguing, right? I thank God they didn't say Will Levis, because I probably wouldn't have talked about that at all. And Panthers Raiders. Yeah, I think this is interesting, Skee, because Detroit has failed offensively 2 games in a row, and there's such a good offense. You wonder what's going on with this team. Both games were at home. Neither game did they look good. And there's been a lot of Arizona money in this game. Again, we talked about New Orleans and that price flip because New Orleans has shown to be good offensively. Same here with Arizona, from 4.5 all the way down to 2.5 in some outlets. People are liking Kyler Murray and what's going on with that offense. It was terrific against the Rams the other day. I can attribute some of that to the fact that the Rams are so injured offensively. They really didn't have a prayer to possess the ball. And Arizona kind of wore out that defense. They got him from the opening kick, but they never stopped. 41 points later, they had destroyed that team. I just feel like Detroit's going to come out west here with a real effort. And I think that the Arizona defense is fully susceptible to any good offense. And I'm waiting for that breakout game from the Lions. It's interesting, Skee, that since they shortened the preseason to 3 games, And there really is no dress rehearsal game anymore. The game where the starters play a half or 3/4. A lot of teams just don't play anybody for the entire preseason. And Detroit kind of went through the preseason motions as if they didn't care too much, very vanilla. And I wonder if the first two games aren't a product of that, but they're way better than what they've shown so far. I think they're probably the right side here. Um, Aiden Hutchinson was an absolute terror. Not that he can track down Kyler Murray, but he was a terror last week. I think 4.5 sacks on his own. So I think Detroit's the right side, even though the money's going the other way.
I think so too. I mean, speaking about things that they can do better, why are you passing the ball all game with Jared Goff as a quarterback? You just feeling that good? You know, you think you're so good now, you just do whatever. I mean, aren't you guys a run first team? You have Gibbs, you have Montgomery, run the ball, all right? Am
You
I
have
am
that
I wrong for
offensive
that?
line.
Yeah, am I wrong? Like run the ball. And the Cardinals, the Bills ran for 130 on them, I think, in that game. I know the Rams couldn't really do anything because their entire O line was hurt, but facing this Lions offensive line, I think Lions can run it down their throat. I think Lions get out with a win. Everybody is high on the Lions this year. They're going to win NFC uh, over the win total. Now all of a sudden, after one loss, we're going to panic. I don't think so. I think the Lions are the right side in this game. There's one I want to speak on, and then we'll get to best bets and get out of here, Rob. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Want to make sure you have time too. Chiefs and Falcons, and I just want to ask a simple question. I mean, this one opened up, or it was either look ahead line or opener. Did I see a 6.5? Did you see a 6.5 too?
No, I don't think I did
Okay.
on that game. Was it available? 6.5 Chiefs?
I swear I saw a 6.5, but let me just double check one more thing. The odd screen I'm looking at says 4.5, but I swear I saw higher than 4.5. Um, maybe it was a look ahead line, but we'll go with 4.5. Odd screen says 4.5, down to 3. Um, getting kind of close to where you can just ask Kansas City to win the game. And one thing I'll say about Kansas City is they've been the kind of team where when they play a game where they didn't show up the way that they're supposed to and they still get away with the win, they show up the next game and respond and win big. That's kind of how I view the Kansas City Chiefs. That's from my observation, that's who they are. Atlanta, I'm not sure who they are. Yeah, you got their best effort because they didn't want to go down 0-2. They played, less than Philadelphia defense who kind of just let Kirk Cousins walk down the field. And I'll give some credit. I mean, he went and won the game, and he wasn't looking good throughout until probably that moment. He didn't look good in week 1, but we've also seen Rodgers not look the best through 2 games and come out in the third game and look elite. So I don't want to count out Kirk Cousins. I do think Atlanta's defense is solid, but how low can you go here, Rob? It drop any lower, might be jumping on the Chiefs. What do you think?
I'd have to agree. It's a short work week for Atlanta. It's a short work week that's at home, but it's still Monday to Sunday. And you have to like the way the Chiefs came out of those first 2 games. Remember, those first 2 games were against Baltimore, where they had to prove that they could stop the run a little bit. And Baltimore's so physically tough. And then they get Cincinnati, who came in there off of a loss with the mindset of winning that game, and a team that plays them really tough there, and a really talented team. Both of those teams, Baltimore and Cincy, I think you would say are more talented than the Atlanta Falcons. I'll go back to what we talked about earlier. I think Atlanta should be a little bit disappointed that they only scored 22 on that defense. I think they should be a little bit disappointed that it took Philly miscues to even give them an opportunity to win. First of all, Philly doesn't take points in the first quarter, as we described. And second of all, Philly, throws an incomplete pass when they could have kneeled out the game with a run. So Atlanta's partially lucky. And in the first week, they played Pittsburgh, who can't move the ball on anybody. And they get beat. So their strength of schedule, this is a step up in class. Let's put it that way. If I'm going overall, offense, defense, everything combined, this is a step up in class. I don't know that they've proven anything yet. And I would, at this price tag, I think you have to look at Kansas City. If nothing else, Patrick Mahomes wins games. And they didn't have their best offensive output last week, but boy, they found a way to win that game in the fourth quarter. So I think Kansas City's not ever intimidated by any road venue. I don't know. If people looking at something different than I'm looking at if they're betting Atlanta right now, but I would try Kansas City.
And people in the chat, you are correct. Pacheco is out. They did. I mean, who knows if we'll see Kareem Hunt if he needs time. Could be Carson Steele. Could be I can't think. Start with a P. His last name. The other running back for the Chiefs. I don't know why I'm blanking out right now, but there we go. So
P Ryan.
Yeah, P Ryan. So that's the way I'll be looking. But we've been on here for quite a while. We got through WNBA. We talked the college game. We talked some NFL. And now it's about that time, Mr. Veno, to move over to best bets. And this time I'm going to just kick it to you. I'll ask you if there's anything that you would like to promote. And also, is there a play you like a little bit more than the rest?
All right, so real quick, I won't spend much time on this, but you can find all my work. If you're interested in selection packages, they're always available on my homepage at wagertalk.com. And it happens to be a Friday where they're offering everything at half price. So if you haven't tried it out and you want to try it out, half price, a pretty good day to do so. I've got a couple of plays up already, including one for tonight, including one for tomorrow, early noon kickoff Eastern time, 9 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. So you can go ahead and get those. And there's going to be a bunch more to follow today. So you can get involved at half price at wagertalk.com. As far as a play that I like is a best bet that we talked about, Skee, I think the Syracuse team total, again, you can get it as low as 32.5 against this Stanford defense. And I just think that aside from their offense, this atmosphere is prone to forcing the other team into a mistake or two that leads to Syracuse points. So I'm even kind of handicapping maybe 3-4 points from a defensive aspect here onto their team total. So for me, it's going to be Syracuse team total. Again, it varies. I see 32.5. I see 33.5. Get the best number. Play Syracuse to get to 34. I think they will.
All right. Good stuff there. And I do not have any package up yet for that promotion that Rob said, but I'm working on it. And I'm pretty sure I will have a bet in the W today. And I'll very likely have some NFL up as well. So just be on the lookout, I guess. Or you can get a day pass, I think, at the half off or however it's called. My best bet for the show, I'm going to go with Connecticut Sun -4.5. I just think experience is going to win them the game along with the home court advantage. I think they throw the first punch, and I think they don't look back. So Connecticut Sun -4.5 will be my best bet for the show. You guys in the chat, we appreciate you 100%. A lot of great cappers, a lot of great people. And make sure you guys come over. I'll be going live again right after this with 5-Star. We'll talk about the other 2 college football games for today and maybe touch some NFL games that we didn't talk about here on this show. So if you want to hear about more, come on over. Let us know what you want to hear about. And I'll see you guys over there.